Once there was a legendarium patron who set out to gain his heart's desire. And while that is, as podcast introductions go, not entirely novel, for every Green Team show there ever was, or shall be, could start in a similar manner. There was much about this episode that was unusual, though the patron himself may not ever have known the half of it. My name's Jeff Dugan, and tonight it's my turn to take the host's chair as we discuss Neil Gaiman's 1999 novel Stardust. Joining me are unofficial Green Team mom, Little Red Book.
Hello.
Continental anime fan and prolific reader Starkast.
Hi.
And newcomer Texas Blade.
Hey.
A quick note on the scope of today's discussion. Starkast is a property very much like The Princess Bride, in that the novel and the screenplay are very different, but are both very beloved things. While because we've been specifically asked, we are going to eventually come back and bring the movie into the fold a little bit, the focus of our discussion tonight is the book and the book only. So Stardust comes from what might have been the height of Neil Gaiman's productivity, because he conceived of it around the time that he and Terry Pratchett were writing Good Omens. And he was working on it as he was completing his work on the TV's miniseries, don't ever bother to watch that, and the novel, yes, read it, Neverwhere. From the beginning, it's always been a storybook with pictures. Originally published in 4 installments by DC Comics' Vertigo line, who also published Gaiman's Sandman, which was ongoing at the same time. The versions that include the beautiful full-color illustrations by Charles Vess are definitely the ones to read if you have that as a choice and it's going to be your first time through the book.
They're great, by the way. They're lovely.
I have described it as being in the tradition of a medieval illuminated manuscript.
100%.
There is not a single page of the illustrated versions that doesn't have some full-color artwork on it somewhere.
So are we going to rate the book in a 5-star scale?
I had one other little piece of introduction that I was going to give to it.
Okay.
And then I figured we'd hit the generalities.
Okay.
Because the other piece of introduction here is that this is a story that's written in the tradition of a Victorian fairy story. And it was what began Gaiman's habit of writing his first drafts in longhand with a nice pen and a good notebook. And while it's a fairy story, it's not a nursery story. That is to say, as the subtitle says, it's a romance within the realms of fairy, but it is decidedly not a story for very young children in the same sense that, for example, Puss in Boots or Cinderella is.
Hard disagree on that. We'll get to it.
We can absolutely get to it. Okay. Introduction out of the way, and notice that I'm very deliberately skipping a synopsis, which ties a little bit maybe into the differences between the book and the movie. Now let's start with some first impressions and introductions. And Red, I know you and I are on the same page of this, so I'm going to put you first, and I'm going to wrap it up.
Okay. So this is my very favorite Neil Gaiman book out of all of his books. I love the conceit that it's written as a Victorian fairy tale, but the reason why I said hard disagree, if you read original versions of fairy tales, they are very dark and very scary. Like, there's a version of Little Red Riding Hood where, and I've talked about this before on this podcast, sorry listeners, where she is forced to drink the blood of her and eat the flesh of her grandmother, and she gets the only way she gets away from the wolf is by threatening to poop in the bed.
Okay.
Wow.
So I'm just saying that fairy tales we clean them up, Disney cleaned them up, but they're not clean.
Oh.
They're very
Andrew
dirty.
Lang and Hans Christian Andersen cleaned them up a bit too.
Yeah, and so did the brothers Grimm actually did a little bit, not as much.
But so that I'm saying that this is perhaps darker and more adult in some of its themes than the Andrew Lang stories.
I'm saying
that it's not for a young child.
I would give them to my children. And not my children as in not my children at their current age, but like when they were much younger. In fact, we watched it when they were like 8 and 6.
What's it rated? What's the movie rated?
Movie's rated PG.
Yeah, okay. So I'm thinking dark, I wouldn't have a problem getting dark to a young. Not that it matters, because it's not something I have to think about, and probably won't for a while. But there's key, at least a key beginning thing that I'm like, no, that doesn't need to be. Kids don't need that part. The
But
first
they
time
don't
I was like,
notice.
Yeah, okay.
it
Because
was more detailed than I was expecting the first time.
Okay.
The second time it was because I got a chance to I did audiobook and I re-listened to it recently, and it didn't hit the same way the second time, but that's probably because I was expecting it.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
So-
and this is probably where I should give our audience a little bit of insight. We originally intended to record this back in the beginning of December, and life happened.
life happened.
Life
Yep.
happened. Life happened, and the holidays happened, and some of us hit busy seasons. And today is April 2nd. So, roughly 4 months after the originally intended recording date, here we are.
We are very
So
early.
what does Blade want to go next, or does Cast want to go next? I'm sorry, I just called you Blade. I should call you Tex.
it's all good, all good. I'd say in general I liked it. I will have a few gripes. One probably a pet peeve in most entertainment and in general, life in general, and then yeah, I think only two real minor, or well, I said minor. Well,
So like 4 stars or like 2 stars or like 5 stars?
yeah, definitely at least 4 stars. It as a whole, I liked it a lot, but there's just some things that it could have done without, I think, or maybe a little bit more. Had like a little bit more creativity at one spot, but
Cool.
that's all.
Okay, Cast, how about you?
Okay, so I'm the negative one here. I would give it a 3-star.
That's not negative.
Uh,
That's fine.
Yeah, but the most negative of us, I would say. So, but because there were there were some things I didn't like for example, and that's just a preference thing. I didn't like how sexual it was. It made me uncomfortable. Like one of the chapters literally begins with a wet dream, but it's essentially a wet dream, and only because of the goddess, it's interrupted. So I was like, okay, did we need that now?
I don't remember this part actually.
Yeah, I don't either.
Chapter 6, the first paragraph.
Okay. I'll take your
I
word
have
for it.
written down my I
Okay.
have written down my reactions to it. So
Okay.
yeah,
I
but
can think of
the
one that
other
might
thing,
qualify, but I thought it was mid chapter, but I was listening again, so I yeah, don't know where everything falls necessarily.
Yeah, and
yeah,
but
and the
I can
other thing I say you first.
no, but I was going to respond to one of the things that you've said. But if you have other thoughts, go for them.
That I said. Okay. The other thing I didn't like was how the characters interacted. Uh, like I liked where they began and where they ended up, but I wasn't sold on how it was told. Like
Yeah.
for
That
example, between the two main characters, or better said, the main character and the main love interest, like all the development is summed up in one paragraph, maybe, and all the
Yeah.
development just out of the window, which was not satisfying for me.
I think that's fair. I
Yeah,
think I disagree with
Yeah.
you, but I think it's fair.
No, and-
It is a little bit out of nowhere.
Yeah, and there is an extent to which we can come back to some of that as a point of discussion in a little bit.
Yeah.
But and if nothing else, it leads a little bit into one of the things that I sort of had as a mental note for a possible thing to talk about anyway. But this is also a fairly rare 5-star book for me, particularly because, as I was saying before we started recording, this is one of my 3 favorite standalone novels ever. And in fact, you might have caught, my intro to the show tonight is very much an homage to the opening paragraph of the book. But it's up there with The Phantom Tollbooth and with Roger Zelazny's A Night in the Lonesome October, which I really want to get together a panel to do so that we have a Halloween episode to release.
I have not read or listened to that one.
I have not read that either. I have read several other Zelazny novels, including Ember, which I hated, or Amber. But Lord of Light I loved, so yeah, I'll think about it.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily pitching you guys, because we will hear other people, and who knows, maybe this show gains the group a patron or 3.
We do actually bring in patrons occasionally.
Yeah,
for the main crew.
$1 now.
Oh, I started specifically so I could join the Phantom Tollbooth discussion. I made no secret of that.
And now you all are paying me.
But one of the things Cass was saying a moment ago actually kind of leads into maybe a little bit of one of the points that I jotted down.
Are we talking about spoilers yet? Just out of curiosity? Because
I think I should do a really brief actual synopsis before we go diving into spoilers.
Okay, because I think if we get any more specific, it's going to be spoilery.
Yep. So, a very, very brief synopsis of the book. Tristan Thorne, son of Dunstan Thorne, grows up in the village of Wall and finds himself fully in the throes of a first crush, as young men of 16 and 17 so often do, with somebody who is the most beautiful girl in town, Victoria Forrester. In a very rash moment, he promises Victoria anything that she wants if she would agree to marry him. And in doing so, as he makes this promise, they see a falling star off on the far side of the wall that gives the village its name. Victoria Forrester says, "Go bring me that fallen star." The remainder of the book is Tristan Thorne's journey to the star, his efforts to bring it back to Wall and across the wall. And along the way, he learns many things about himself that he did not know. Possibly finds his true love. And we then, toward the very end of the book, have a very long flash forward to the end of his life. But yet, as noted, along the way, we get a number of very Victorian fairy tale elements incorporated. And in many ways, a whole suite of very beautifully written prose.
Agree.
From here, spoilers ahead, you have been warned. If you are not ready to cross through the gap in the wall, stop now, go read the book, go listen to the book, and then come back and return.
And by the way, the book is
6 hours.
Yeah, it's not very long, but it's read by Neil Gaiman, and he has the best accent and the best voice. He's so great.
Yeah, he did a good job. Did a good job.
Yeah, I sometimes turn him on to fall asleep too, because his voice is just so relaxing.
Neil Gaiman, in fact, records all of his own audiobooks.
Yes, he does.
That's cool. I need to
Yeah.
do more of his stuff. I think this is the first one of his I've done. Listen to.
Oh, the Norse mythology one is great. We're getting off topic. Not that that's unusual.
Adjacent topic.
Adjacent. But so, okay. And so now speaking of, and kind of relevant to some of what Cast was saying a little while ago, Gaiman said in interviews that although at one point he started to read The Hero with a Thousand Faces in his youth or early adulthood, he put it down and never finished it, because if the hero's journey were so universal, he'd rather write it naturally than do like George Lucas did in writing Star Wars, and write it that way because of knowing it's what is supposed to happen. This is absolutely a Portal fantasy.
Yes, it is. Yay, Portal Fantasy!
But particularly given how much of this story is the story not of what Tristan does, but of what happens to Tristan Thorn. Do you think, is it really a hero's journey?
Yes.
Well, yes and no. Like, it follows most of the beats of a hero's journey, but I would say the end is not a hero's journey. Like, yeah, but I can say we are now on with spoilers, or?
Oh, we are well into spoiler territory. People have been warned. If you are not ready to if you're not ready to cross the gap into the wall and join us on the other side, then go away.
Okay.
Or be me.
I would say it's not a hero's journey, especially with the end, because if I remember correctly, the end is normally that they return home and they remain home and live a happily ever after at their home, where they left at the beginning. But with Stardust, the main character goes home and sees it's not for him anymore, and he meets his mother and goes with his love interest and lives his happy end behind the walls and has a new life. So I would say in that way it differs from the normal hero's journey.
Okay, go Red.
So I think that's a variation on the hero's journey that is fairly common, because he finds where he is in the world, kind of where he should be, but also he commits many heroic acts. He helps people along the way. He saves the star's life by putting himself in great danger. Yeah, so I do think it's a pretty traditional hero's journey.
Yeah, he owes it to her to save her life after how he treats her when he first meets her. My opinion.
I'm not going to dispute that, and certainly one of the things I occasionally see discussed about this as a book is that question of protagonists have to have some agency. How much agency does Tristan have in all of the things that happen to him, as opposed to him being there and witnessing the things that happen around him? And that's the piece that had kind of put that there in frame of mind for me.
So you think it's not a hero's journey, or it is?
I'm sort of with
he
you in
saves
that
people, so that makes him a hero, right?
Well,
by a definition.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that I knew what I felt like about this when I first jotted it down as a question. It's one of the reasons that I put it in as a thing to discuss. Because, yeah, we have a lot of the story beats of a typical hero's journey that show up. But there is sort of that question of, is he really of how much of it is because of things he's actively choosing to do, as opposed to because of things that are happening around him.
So
He's still
another
reacting to it.
thing I would like to bring up is the heroine's journey, also the female counterpart of the hero's journey. And I thought about a little bit how much oh god, no, I forgot her name. The star
Elaine?
Yvain.
Elaine. How much Elaine would fit the category, and if she herself is the heroine of her own journey. And I thought it could be interesting to, yeah, I just had a thought, it would be interesting to know how much she fits that trope.
I'm thinking.
In the time skip, there's some talk about her doing things that would be helpful, but in the parts we get, she's doesn't do too much to help them, really.
Like the heroine's journey is not a lot about how should I say, physical change like the hero's journey. The heroine's journey is more like emotional changing. Like in a heroine's journey, it's most often about like the heroine goes on a journey. She adapts to the male standards, but over the journey, she notices that she has to embrace the feminine and the male parts of her to gain acceptance or to save the world or something.
I would say very similarly to Rapunzel, perhaps. No, that's not even right either. I know what you're getting at, and I think
Mhm.
you have something there. And I would probably have to think through it a whole lot more to make a smart comment here, because otherwise I will say something dumb, though that would not be the first time that I have said something dumb on this podcast.
I don't
But
even
I
know
think
that. I don't think it would necessarily be a dumb.
no, I mean there's something to that though. I agree. But I don't have quite the right way to articulate it. So
Yeah. Okay. Tex, you said you had a couple of particular gripes that you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, we can. Well, I guess throughout, I don't need to know so much about bodily functions, or how Fey droppings look. That can all be that you can save some print, save a few pages, and not put that stuff in there, and I'll be quite happy. I can insert that if I really have a desire. I do find it interesting that he calls it a adult fantasy. It's like, are adults really that interested? Because I think we don't need that. But
he's definitely earthy in his writing.
yeah, and I prefer, it didn't. It's just only a slight knockoff of it. It's like oh great, good, yeah. That was that was the most persistent one I could have done without. And then the other one is we have a celestial body. She falls from the sky, lands, and this celestial being who lives outside of Earth and is kind of a supernatural thing. What does she say after she lands?
Ouch.
She
Nope.
F-bombs.
Yes, she does.
I didn't.
She's a celestial being. They have to have a different word for that. And it's just like, it's like I fear like we have the English language borrows from every other language on Earth. And yet people seem to think that they need to have one or two of the F-bomb, or some people think they have to have one or two of the F-bombs in every sentence they use. And then it's just like, that's one reason like some of my favorite authors make up their own in-world curses, and that makes perfect sense to me.
So I actually know
yeah.
people who have the opposite pet peeve, and they hate the fake curses. They rather their characters.
They're,
And I have no
unimaginative
preference either way. But I know people who have the exact opposite. They're like, just say.
And I've heard those people, and I'm like, you do know that all our curse words have like a root, and if that root is culturally based, and therefore if you have a different culture, you're gonna have different. I mean, that's why, yeah. So, yeah, but yeah, those are my two big gripes.
So the one thing that would come back at you, the part of the reason why he describes the droppings of the fairy is because the way the character is described, you don't know necessarily that it is a fairy, and that's why he uses that. That's how he thinks he's a little human, and when he sees the droppings, he realizes he's not. Just saying.
I think there's other ways to do that, but
okay. Well,
I mean, that was just one. Like I said, that's
I know.
one side.
Yeah.
There's all the other times where it's like, okay, good, yeah, yeah, okay,
Well,
yeah.
And if we talk about things, if about pet peeves, in when the witches were introduced and all their boobs were explained, that was a little bit, yeah.
I mean, in fairness to that,
I know.
we're in the head of an 18-year-old boy. What?
No, we
not
weren't.
in that
We
scene.
weren't.
In
Not
that scene,
in
we're
that
actually
scene.
in that scene we're in the Witch Queen's head.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
well.
I thought the explanation
Girls think about that
was,
too sometimes when they're looking at themselves in the mirror. They're like,
I can't blame them.
yeah,
oh, that was hilarious. Okay.
Yeah, no,
sorry,
I
sorry,
thought-
Cass.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
cast.
I thought the explanation was because they were old and they wanted youth, and before and after, they were very conscious of their body and what they wanted. So it would make, in a way, sense that they would notice how their body slacks off and how it looks after they were younger again.
Yes.
But I still didn't like it.
Well, okay. I'm just letting you know that if, as somebody who is fast approaching 50, I guarantee you that if I suddenly became a lot younger, I would definitely be admiring that. Looking in the mirror and going, I look pretty fine now. It's been a
I'm
long
closer
time
to
since
50
I
than
looked
you are,
fine.
Red.
I know, but whatever. I'm on the other side of 40. So Cass, I understand why your reaction. I'm just letting you know that is
It's realistic.
It's very realistic.
Yep.
Okay, so I have a couple things that I would like to talk about now, unless you have something else, Jeff.
Since the one you mentioned before the show, I think is going to flow out of one of the topics that I jotted down as a note.
Okay.
Let's start with that one, and I think then I'm going to set you up with this.
Okay, sounds good.
In one of the backstages pieces of my life, I had a couple years that I worked part-time in a bookstore. And during that section, I was one of the people who did a lot with the children's section and a lot with the science fiction and fantasy section. And anytime I had a chance to pitch this, part of how I would describe it was as a fairy tale for adults. One of the particular things that I love about this story is the way that the fairy tale elements are incorporated as seeds for things that we never see happen. Because it gives the sense of it having been such a much larger and more vibrant world.
That actually was one of the other things I was going to talk about.
Well, and I think it also leads into the one that you had specifically mentioned beforehand.
Yes. So, like, you have this little... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but just my question for everybody, and this is one where I'm going to start just to give a flavor of the kind of thing I'm talking about, is what's your favorite fairy tale element for the story? And for me, it's that passage where the Witch Queen is talking about how the tree has not yet begun to grow that will form the cradle for the person who's going to kill her. And a paragraph later, you see a squirrel go grab an acorn and bury it.
Yep.
I did like that.
That was exactly the scene I was thinking about. There's another one too, but okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, Cass.
I'm not sure what a fairy tale element I like the most, because as I said before, I liked all the beginnings and the endings of the fairy tale elements. I just didn't like exactly how it got there, but I like the ideas of all and how they ended up. But if I would have to say one, I think I really liked the mother, that she was the story of the mother, that his father and her were in love in love in
I think it was
quotation
love.
marks.
I don't think it was love.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
No.
I noticed when I said it. Yeah, that's wrong. Wrong, but yeah,
An
but
example of
that they had
why.
a one night stand.
Official.
They had a one night stand. Yeah, but
That's the example of why genies have the prohibition against making people fall in love, just in case they fall into the hands of a 16-year-old. That must be why.
that they had the one night, and that after that she gave birth to our main character, and then she was turned into a bird, and at the end it was revealed that she is the eighth. Right? How many brothers were there?
7 brothers.
Mm-hmm.
7 brothers.
The
So she
Lord's
was the she was the only sister, but that she was the
Slave?
Hmm?
She was the slave of Ditchwater Sal?
yeah, but at the end she was the
Oh, the ruler. Yeah, she was the regent.
the ruler. The ruler. Hmm?
Yeah.
I like that part really.
And they show up and they're like, well, Yvonne and Tristan show up and they're like, well, everything's going fine. We're going to go have some more
Yeah,
fun.
that is good. I wouldn't mind hearing about those all the stories that they jump over. I'm like, well, darn it, I want to hear about this stuff. Let's get a few more books here.
Yeah, because
I guess
like
there's something to say about not milking something.
Yeah,
But it's
that's
not even
exactly what I was
milking.
going to say.
It's not even milking, because during those paragraphs, it was also explained that the development between the main character and the main love interest happened. Like we had a perfect excuse to have those scenes, but we didn't get them. That's my problem.
It's a little fair. I
Yeah.
said, I get where you're coming from.
That would be a big reason to
But
have
part of
those.
sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no, that was it. That was it.
So this is like what I really love about this story is the things like the acorn being buried. And then you have the whole conceit where she says, what does she say? The mother says, I'll gain my freedom on the day the moon loses her daughter. If
it
that
happens in a
occurs,
week, 2 Mondays come together.
come together. Right. If it happens. And she says, I wait with patience. And it's just like so cool. And so then at the end of the book, the moon loses her daughter because she gives her heart to Tristan, and 2 Mondays come together because there's a marriage. And I just love that. I love things like that in fairy tales.
I thought the loon
Yeah, that was
lost
cute.
her daughter because she got struck by a magical stone that dragged her down.
No, because she
and
had to
there's
give
no
her
way
heart
go
away.
back.
No, she had to give her heart away. That was really important because that's why the Mabe character, whose name I can't really remember, but it's basically Mabe, can't take her heart anymore. Because I was thinking the same thing as you until I got to that part of the book because it had been a while since I'd read the book. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the book, she is only ever referred to as the Queen of the Lilim.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And in the film, she's given the name Lamia.
right. I can never remember her name. I just think of her as Mabe.
I think of her as the Witch Queen. But yeah.
Oh,
and
Mabe, like
Mabe. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like the Unseelie Queen.
yes.
I only
Yes.
know her from Dresden Files.
Yeah,
so.
no, but she's also an actual character, like
Yeah.
in
She's
Yeah,
Celtic
I know she
mythology.
exists. I really need to get some of that old the original stuff for the fairies stuff. I need to find a good source for that.
I'll look around
Because-
for you.
and it,
Yeah, that'd be great. Ideally audio, because I have stacks and stacks of print books that are in the stacks of intention, and I haven't gotten to any of them yet.
and probably when we wrap up, I'll throw a suggestion into the chat, because I have a thing that's kicking around the back of my head, which won't exactly hit the fairy nature
So
of
much
the Witch Queen
cutting.
part, but
So much cutting.
Sorry, Red.
It's okay.
but no, but the other
Get back on.
the other fairy tale bit that I have to call out is the whole piece with the owl and the mouse.
Yes.
Just
It is quite interesting hearing about the whole wood populated by cursed beings.
Yeah, right.
And
the prince that was an owl or whatever. It was the prince. The mouse was the
the
prince.
mouse that got eaten by the. Did it? I don't know. There's a few things going on. I think it was that mouse that got hit by the owl, and it's like, well, so much for you breaking your curse.
And it's one of those things about Gaiman that I like is that it's not like laugh out loud funny. It's this very subtle, very dark humor that you quite I don't even know. You almost want to laugh, but at the same time you're like, oh no. So.
It was a good part where Tristan's like chasing that rabbit, and then he gives up, and the rabbit turns around like, well, good for you, or something.
Yeah.
A British form of that, I believe.
Hope you're proud of yourself.
And it reminded me so much of Alice in Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like chasing the rabbit, and the rabbit can speak.
Yes. In fact, I'm sure it was inspired by Alice in Wonderland, and I actually just recorded an episode with Lambie's crew on Alice in Wonderland.
the other thing that part might have been inspired by is Watership Down.
Oh, that's possible too. Wait. I would have to look up the dates. Watership Down is what I call Buddy Holocaust.
No, what?
That's the reason I haven't, or one of the reasons I haven't gotten to it is because like, oh, that sounds dark and depressing. I'm good. There's plenty of stuff that will not be dark and depressing that I can do, and
It is not.
Same with like Lord of the Flies and stuff like that.
Watership Down is not all dark and depressing.
No, it's not.
But the couple of spots where it goes dark, it goes dark.
Buddy Holocaust.
I will, however, pretty much guarantee it is something that Gaiman was familiar with, because Watership Down was published in the early 70s.
I was wondering about that. I didn't know the publishing order. I didn't read it until after I read Stardust, so...
No, Watership Down is, I think, 72 or 73.
Okay.
But those piece of fairy tale elements lead in Red to that other part I know you said you wanted to talk about.
So we have this very interesting setup. The very beginning of the book, Mabe, and I'm going to call her Mabe. I don't care what her real name is. Sits down with Ditchwater Sal, and she knows that she's looking for something. And so Sal gives her a potion that makes her tell her the truth, which is that she's looking for the stars, because if she gets the stars, she can get young again. So Mabe finds out that she's been tricked with this potion, and she curses Sal to not be able to see her heart's desire.
Not be able to see the star.
See the star. See or hear the star. So at the end of the book, the star is hanging out in the caravan of Ditchwater Sal, who gets waylaid by Mabe, and she's like, "Who do you have? Who's riding with you?" And she makes Sal tell the truth. Well, Sal doesn't know the star's in the car, so they both trick each other out of. It's just so great. I just love it so much.
Mab tricked herself, really.
Yeah, they both trick. Right.
I mean, she's not tricking because she generally doesn't know. So it's just a comeuppance. But
see, if Sal hadn't forced the truth out of Mabe, then she wouldn't have been cursed to not see the star, which is what she wanted to see.
This is why you don't be a bad person.
Don't be a bad person.
Don't
be
try
nice
to eat people's hearts. That solves your problems.
No, I just love that whole setup. It's just it's so good.
Comeuppance is always nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's all I wanted to say. Oh, no, what the other thing I wanted to say is that Tristan, in contrast, he goes through life helping people and he gets rewarded for it. And those two nasty old ladies get nothing and they deserve it.
Okay. Tex, you had a chance to bring up some of your gripes earlier. Is there anything else that you particularly want to do before we get to the one question that we were thrown when I've remembered to ask people for questions 10 minutes before we started recording?
I
should have thought of that.
Anything super important. And yeah, other than that, I liked it. It was good. Yeah, I can't think of anything.
Okay. Cass, do you have anything else on your mind?
Right now, not.
Okay. Having had one kind of just trigger for me, so I'm going to do one more right before we hit the one listener question that we had. But we've sort of alluded to how this is a book that has a feel of being set in a much more open and vibrant world than the little bitty snippet that we see. And about how there are a couple of places where we get some jumps in time as things happen. So, what's the one thing that we have alluded to happening in or around the story that you really wish he would write, even if it's just a short story? Cast.
God, there's so much. Like, it's already one of the main plot lines, but I wanted more about the brothers.
About the brothers?
Yes,
Okay.
because I really like the idea of it, and I also really like the one scene where the one brother tricked the other one to leaving with the ship.
Oh, yeah. Where
Yep.
Primus tricks Septimus.
Yeah.
A word I can't say.
Septimus.
Thank you.
And I really want to know, in general, the life of the family before and how also the mother got into servitude as a servant.
Okay. Red. If Neil Gaiman were to come back to the Village of Wall and the world of Fairy Beyond the Wall, and write about one thing we know happened because of this book, but that we didn't see, what would you want it to be?
Go on a ride on that ship with just the airship, with just those guys, like not necessarily with Tristan. And like, how do you get into the lightning catching business? And what do they use the lightning for? I don't know. It's probably explained and I forgot it. But the point is,
No.
I think that's really fun.
Okay, Tex.
And
I wouldn't mind hearing about his time as king. Apparently, he did some pretty big things about beating back the Unseelie, I think they were saying, and
he broke the Unseelie court.
yeah,
and
yeah.
he
So I
won
wouldn't
the
mind hearing
Goblin
about that
War.
stuff.
Yeah.
Some epic battling stuff.
I want to know
Can't im-
about the Order of the Tower.
Yeah.
Yep. And by the way, the thing with the Unseelie court, that's one of the reasons why I think of the Witch Queen is made.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
because she's clearly an Unseelie fairy.
That's-
Yep. Okay. So, the one question that we actually had somebody give us, and it's possible not everybody here will be able to answer it because not everybody has seen the film in addition to having read the book. But film versus the book, what's the biggest difference?
The movie is much more self-consciously funny. It is hilarious. And the ghosts, speaking of the brothers cast, if you want some more background on the brothers, you should watch the movie because they are great. They are so much fun. And they're not funny in the book.
I
But-
did like
Oh,
the
sorry.
Ghost Brothers commentary and everything like that. I guess I forgot.
So
but
think
yeah.
of them as much more like the old dudes in the Muppets in the balcony in the movie. That's much more what they're like.
In the film, they are
In the
much more
film.
like Statler and
Yeah.
Waldorf.
But I really do like how Gaiman has them talking. Said Primus and the crackling of the fire. Like that whole thing was really cool and atmospheric.
Mm.
What about you, Jeff? I think we're the only two that have seen the movie.
I think you're right. I think the biggest difference, it plays in a little bit with your part about the film being self-consciously funny in an American style of humor.
Yeah.
As opposed to the book being funny in a very dry and British style of humor.
Yep.
But I would say the biggest thing we get actually ties into what you would want to see more of. Because it's the whole development of the relationship between the captain and the crew on the airship.
And Dustin Hoffman is so funny.
Not Hoffman, Robert De Niro.
Oh, was it Robert De Niro? I thought it was
It's
Dustin
Robert De
Hoffman.
Niro.
Actors. I can't tell them apart. They all look the same to me.
I've heard that name before, and I've probably seen some he's in, but
I'm sure you have.
Yeah, but
I know that's a big name, but I'm really bad about knowing.
they all look the same. All the actors, they all look alike.
and in fact, it's very much a film that has a higher power cast than you think something like that would have been able to command at the time.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer is the Witch Queen.
And she is so good at
Sure.
it.
What else does she do?
She's been in an incredible amount, but the two things that I would say... Okay, if you're my age, she's famous for having been Catwoman in Batman Returns.
I was going to say cast is like 18. Well, the point is that she was a really big thing when we were kids. She's not now.
No, but she actually most recently, Michelle Pfeiffer has been playing Janet Van Dyne, Wasp.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
In Ant-Man and the Wasp and in Endgame.
Yeah.
But no, if you're Reds in my age, then
it's Catwoman.
Then it's Catwoman
and the Witch Queen.
and Dangerous Liaisons.
That would probably be something that I would never see. I don't think I'm in the demographic for that. She was in the. It's pretty trashy.
It's worth watching.
Okay. And there's the other one, Age of Innocence. Isn't she in that?
She very well might be. Also with the Bridges brothers in the Fabulous Baker Boys.
I haven't heard of that one.
Then again, Red and I are
you
both
don't want me
north
to
of 40.
get into the list of things I have not watched that most people have.
No, again,
I haven't seen the Baker Boy one.
Red and I are north of 40. So most of the things I have just rattled off are from the 80s and early to mid 90s.
And see, I have not watched the Marvel films, so don't feel too bad.
Okay.
I have watched most of those. Vast
Film-
majority.
Okay.
I have
Stardust
watched
film.
Speak of
Tristan-
cast. Let cast talk. We're talking too
I have-
much. It's cast turn.
I haven't even watched one. I'm really bad with watching movies. Like I haven't heard about any of the actors you talked about. I haven't watched any of the movies which you talked about.
I bet if we sent you a picture of Michelle Pfeiffer, you would probably recognize her from somewhere in the milieu.
Yeah. Tristan Thorne in the film is played by Charlie Cox, who later became very well known doing as in the role of Daredevil in the Netflix series.
Oh, I forgot that.
I haven't watched
It's
this.
probably because I haven't watched Daredevil.
And Devane is
He's
played
very
by
young.
And Charlie Cox is really young when Stardust came out. He's probably now in his 30s.
It's yeah.
And who plays the
And
star? I can see her
Claire
face.
Danes.
I can't. There we go.
Claire
Claire
Danes.
Danes.
Well, that concludes our episode for tonight. You can find us on Twitter collectively as @GreenTeamPod. Me individually @JFFDOUGAN. Anybody else who chooses to throw
I don't tweet.
anyone else who chooses to throw one out, this is your chance. You can find a link to our Discord server at legendarium.com. Join us in supporting the Legendarium via Patreon. Our intro and outro music is Galactic Damages by Jingle Punks. Thanks to Craig for loaning us a little corner of your media empire, with a shout out to Horizon Brave for having started it all. Thank you this evening to our panelists, Little Red Book, Texas Blade, and Starkast. I'm Jeff, and until next time, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.